Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Impossible Puzzles Show. It is episode 116. Good Lord, we have survived this long. And Joe, we have Joe here. Joe, tell us all about yourself. What's up?
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. I'm here as a person who's been a journalist, a writer, bon vivant at some point in my life as well. I'm currently the founder of Global Politics Report and GSR Network. GSR Network is a collection of data-driven platforms supported by journalistic integrity. The platform provides curated hourly information, data analytics, and updated news from around different worlds in the world of sports, AI news, politics, entertainment, and betting. And the big thing about this is that this is something that I own myself. I have put it over 100 plus days and 575 hours in building out from nothing to this now. I've spent 30 plus years as a journalist. I've written on everything from business to sports to spirituality to some personal development stuff as well. I've been writing for the Good Men Project, the Huffington Post, or Entrepreneur in the past. And I just am very grateful to be here talking with you about that, and also what the meaning of it all means in the big picture of the being on the mortal coil we are here on Earth. So
Did I hear mortal coil? Anyone? Hamlet, Shakespeare? Oh, to be or not to be? That is the question. When we shuffle off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the calamity that makes of so long life. For who? I can't believe I remember this. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the presser's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized law, love the law's delay, the insolence of office. I think I mixed up a few there. The mortal, the mortal coil, fascinating. 30 plus years as a journalist. Good God, I always joke that I've spent, 70 plus days as a rapid fire fake journalist, comedic tech, sit in his basement Jewish pretend microphone journalist. Journalism, opening the can of journalism. How in many ways has it changed from
Oh
back
Lord,
then?
we'd be here for another 3 hours on that, but I'll try and make it the truncated version to give you and your listeners a little backstory of what it was like when I broke in as a sports clerk in October 1983 at the Beaumont Enterprise newspaper, Beaumont, Texas. As a sports clerk, my job was to file pictures, take phone calls, and take dictation from reporters over a telephone and type in the words they were saying into a computer. That then the story would then go to an editor who would pick up the story in the same content management system, then send the story on from there to the page designer who sat in front of a big screen and did a little wiggle waggle with a button and typed in certain things, and then the story would automatically appear on the screen. Now, this is also the same time where things like a pica pole and a proportion wheel were used to size photos or even negatives from live sports events. These days, there's no pica pole, there's no proportion wheel, no one files pictures anymore, really. And, and now you have a world that is connected by social media, by the internet, by Wi-Fi, by the different things that 40 plus years ago, was looked at as like, what is this? What are you talking about?
Yes.
There was no Elon Musk back then. There was Steve Jobs, and there was Woz, and but as far as like someone thinking about a social media world with X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these types of things. This has opened up a new lane for journalists, also at the same time non-journalists, to have their opinions shared all over the world.
That's right. That's right. It's fascinating that there was a time. I was born in 1984, and I grew up, I guess, with a lot of exposure to early computing, personal computers, that whole revolution. I mean, I was be 3 years old when I first saw my first in-home computers, but that was by that was itself miraculous. And it's so true. You have non-journalists, you have non-trained reporters, you have non-trained, media people, and they're doing podcasts, they're creating LinkedIn content, they're creating YouTube content. There are teenage girls doing dance, whatever you call it, what do you call it? The flashy dance routines, dancing trends. And it used to be like media. Yeah, when I've ever spoken to traditional journalists, real journalists, they're like, Mike, there used to be a time where there was actual, like, cherished media. It wasn't so simple to just go click on the phone that you happen to own. No, there was no internet, so that it was cherished. Like every video, there was just such a scarcity and cost associated with pictures and video, and the challenge and the cost of sharing it. And now today, it's like today, I mean, if you already happen to have a phone, which everyone has, even children, and if you happen to have Wi-Fi access, which is included with the phone, and you happen to, YouTube, for example, and Zoom meetings, these things are all really freely, readily used. So what are your thoughts? Are you kicking yourself, oh man, what a crazy world, or are you embracing these new technologies and systems?
With GSR Networks building out process now kind of done, as far as the back end structure is concerned, my attention now focuses toward the marketing of it all, like getting the message to the masses out more and more. That's why I'm doing your podcast, of course. But for one reason, yes, I'm gullible about it. I'm honest about it. But at the same time, Mike, I realize that in order to succeed in the ever-changing world, and as a journalist and in social media, I then have to adapt with the times.
Yes.
And so what I've done is dragged my weary bones over to being more focused on YouTube, TikTok, my Beehive newsletter, even adding here and there a little Twitch appearance here and there, just to get some traction on another platform. And I realized that these are the places where people go to find everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for the whole pie. I'm looking for a sliver of the pie. And if I can get a sliver of the pie, then I can take that sliver and make the pie a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And they start chomping away like Pac-Man, And so why not go where the people are, right? That makes sense from a marketing aspect. And I'm no marketing expert myself. I'm still learning things about marketing, about writing, about emails, about things like that,
Yes. It's fascinating just digging into like old versus new methods of journalism and media. I'm coming not from the journalist world at all. I'm coming from my grandfather when I was like 10 years old, handing me a camcorder and like some batteries and a pack and being like, Mikhail, we better take some pictures and videos for memories. And I'm like, that was it. That was how I learned about video editing, how to film, cinematography. Well, that's a fancy
Mm-hmm.
word for, how to document things. And it's strange. So like the world of making videos and telling stories through video is completely different than reporting on news or sports or current events. It's so different because like I remember like watching clips and having to maybe, and there wasn't so much editing. It was just like, how can I capture the story of a bunch of, some Jewish family event? How do I and I didn't know. It's not like anyone was teaching me. In fact, I was just it was like make it up. But you're coming from more formal journalism, formal reporting. That's
Well,
different than just
yeah, it
making
is.
video.
It is different. Yet there's a market in today's social media world for
Yes.
things you were doing as a 10-year-old, like filming, videoing your Jewish family gathering, and
Yes.
put some put some fiddler on the roof behind it. If I were a rich man, and
Dabba 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 dee
right.
dee. Day and night da dee dee da. If I were, we've incorporated
So,
Hamlet and the
so,
Fiddler on the.
so
We've
anyway, you
got
put that you put that behind your video,
yeah.
and there you could have a YouTube video about a Jewish family celebrating in the 1980s, and
Oh
let it
yeah.
run.
It's so
And
true.
I'll guarantee you, with the world full of Jewish family members out there of different families, they see your video, they go, "Ah, the old days." Like Grandpa must have talked about the old country all the time. I mean, it's
it,
like they
it's
talk about that.
you know what? It's fascinating how, and I always tell people that I only got comfortable doing like raw videos, very different from family video. Raw like interviews, like live. What's the term? Live to tape. So people ask always. They're like, "All right, Marker, what's your style? You want me to come on your platform?" And I'm like, "The style is extremely minimalist. I'm literally you click the Google Meet." I do the rest. They're like, the rest of what? And I'm like, no, no, it's just a raw chat. You can plug, you can pitch, you can share your story, you know, talk about your background before you became an entrepreneur, or talk about tech you like. And what's fascinating is a lot of people were like, but how are you editing it? Where are you going to load it? I'm like, there is no way. I'm like, editing? No. It just goes on YouTube raw. They're like, raw? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm not like a daredevil, like I don't know, riding a motorcycle across from one cliff to another. But it's like people are like, how dare are you a daredevil? Are you crazy? And I'm like, no, I just want the raw realness of the chat because I found out that's what people want to hear. People like the truth. People like the rawness. The what's the term from that movie, Cloud Atlas? The true. That's what all people are like.
True.
Yeah, and which is another way to say like the raw, unpleasant truth of
Right.
startups and media.
So,
Yeah, you
so
get
I
it.
think so. So a couple of things I want to kind of interject in the conversation here. One, um, I think there's an element, Mike, that people want journalistic, data-driven,
Mm,
analytics-focused news. I think people are getting tired of the AI push,
yeah,
of the AI constant bombardment
sloth
from
land. Yeah,
companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and Meta and Google and Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying, to be clear, for anybody listening, I'm not saying they're doing the devil's work. Okay, I want to be clear about that. But I do want to say this though, that there is.
I have a no.
Go
Pardon.
right ahead.
I have a young lady. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Go ahead. It's all right. So, what I think is important to say here is that Hello.
We have
So
a guest.
what I think is important to say here is that people want people want authenticity. People want that level of authenticity that they seem to sense is veering away from where things are now.
Yes.
And it's also, I think people like human beings talking about how they got to where they are today. So I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about me, Joe Rutland.
Please do. Please do, as I try to stop my 4-year-old daughter from assaulting
go right
me.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Continue.
So
Ella, bring this upstairs.
I was born in 1964 with a clipped lip and a cleft palate and without an uvula. A facial difference issue.
Okay.
And I had a number of surgeries throughout my childhood and into my freshman year in high school. Had a number of doctor visits in the growing up years. I was born in Houston, Texas. I was raised in a city named Beaumont, Texas, 100 miles due east of Houston. And my mother would take me to doctor's appointments back and forth when I needed to go. There was a lot of dysfunction in my family house. Addiction issues, mental health issues, Ralph and Alice moments between my mother and father. My reference, I'm sorry, is to Ralph and Alice Cramden of the Honeymooners, who would always kind of get back and forth with each other.
Yippity yap! Don't talk
Yippity
back.
yap.
We all have different circumstances. You would say yours was more unpleasant than the proposed average of the time and culture.
Yeah, I would say so, very much so. I mean, but I'm not unique in that there are many millions of households where kids grew up in dysfunctional places. So I'm not saying I'm unique or I'm a unicorn. I'm just telling you what my experience was. I went to high school in Beaumont. Graduated after 6 years. I had to take a year and a half off because my mom got ill with a mental breakdown. And then I finished in 6 years. All the time I was in school outside of the first semester of my college career, I paid my way through school.
No one lined up for you a beautiful horse and chariot, metaphorically speaking. No one set you up for success.
I asked the high heavens for it, and I got up. No, keep moving from them.
Sometimes we are dealt a difficult hand.
Right. Well, I didn't become a typical man until my 30s. It took me a long time to grow up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and mentally. And in fact, I'm still growing up at 61, almost 62 years old. I'll be 62 in August.
We are all, you know what, it's a brave thing when a person, whether they're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, wakes up one day and says, you know what, only today or only in the last few years have I figured out what I'm good at or who I am or what I should be doing with my life. And I'm like, well, better late than never. Better late than never. I always say mazel tov. And I learned this in life sometimes. Sometimes there are a lot of people who may have never gone through such self-reflection, who never sat down and thought about things so long and so hard. And it is a blessing in disguise in life sometimes when we go through certain ups and downs, or sometimes a loss of a friend, a family member, and it forces a certain wake-up call, or I guess in your mother's case, more challengingly, a nervous breakdown. And it's actually surprisingly common how it is different strokes for different folks and different times for different people. But in life, we all need to grow. We all go through the growing up. Some people never grow up. Some people grow up very quickly.
and you can tell those who grew up quicker than they're supposed to, because their brain may be like like a human level brain, but from the neck down, they're scared little boys and girls. They live out of their own personal shadows. They have never been really given the proper context of their youth.
Ah, yes.
After family members and others gave a narrative that fit into the picture you saw, and then one bright and shining day, you go to a professional and you tell them all this stuff about everything, and even stuff I'm not sharing with you here. And you tell them everything, and they go, that's not normal.
There definitely is there definitely are situations in life where, like, when we're younger, anyone's younger, when I was younger, where you don't know who to talk to or you don't know what to say, and only now looking back, I'm like, oh wow, how come me and that friend of mine from 30 years ago, how come no one spoke about this or that? And how come I bottled up this and you bottled up that? And it's fascinating how many years it takes just to to circle back and be like, oh, your family was also a mess, or your dad was also a nutball. Oh, I didn't know that. Why did you share that? He goes, well, I was trying to hide it just like you were trying to hide it. And the reality is sometimes some things are normal, some things are a little quirky. And I reflect a lot on the good 10 years of my life where I spent living, working, only operating in like a very religious sense, kind of hiding from everything else. But it was very nice, cookie cutter simplicity there. And there was a whole chunk of my life where I was just very head down, very narrow in this kind of world. And it's interesting. And then I've learned that some people, their whole lives, be it religious beliefs or certain line of work or certain areas of specialty or interest, one can pick a broad scope or a narrow scope. You've done 1,000 interesting things though across the journalism spectrum. You have had,
that's true.
How many? You've had like 10 different jobs across journalism.
Well, I've had many jobs in the journalism world. Some have lasted longer than others. I've been laid off. It was part of a newspaper sell-off in 1995. I've lasted, maybe a year or so at some places, and then I was either part of a cuts, or I felt like, or I had an issue going on with the knee where I couldn't stay, or after a certain period of time, I felt like, what is this? What am I providing here? Really, is this what it's all about, Alfie? What I mean? That's
a 1950s song you snuck in there, I believe.
Right, I did. But so for me,
interesting.
For me, yes. I've also been homeless a number of times in my life too.
Really?
The last time I was homeless was a little over 2 years ago, where I lived out of my car for 5 months.
Really? Homeless?
Yes.
But I see online. Wait a second. Fascinating, by the way. This is all this in Utah. You're in Utah, right?
Yeah, but I grew up in Texas. I worked across the state of Texas, from as far as to the west you can go, as far as the south you can go, and almost pretty much as far as the north you can go in the state of Texas.
It's a big state.
It is a big state. And I've driven from west to east, actually. When I got the news my mother died in 2011, it's 2011, I was working at the El Paso Times newspaper in El Paso, Texas. And I had at that time, but financially speaking, I could afford to get a nice sized Ford F-150 truck, white. So when I got the news about my mom passing, which was due at any time, I hopped in my truck and I just drove straight across Texas and stopped off about 2 hours out of Houston, the Houston area. Well, I couldn't go any further. It was late and I'm sleepy and tired. So I got a hotel room in Kerrville, Texas, a nice little town in the Texas Hill Country. And then I kept on into Houston, going and went to finally the assisted living home where my mother lived the last years of her life. Um,
Interesting.
and I also want to tell people too, this is part of my story as well, that, if you feel separated from a parent, you can go back home again.
Mm.
My dad and I were separated after my parents' divorce in 1984 for 13 years. It took a professional to help me see some things I'd been told about my father were not true.
You are not the only person saying this. I could tell you in 100 and, good Lord, actually thinking about it, in 115 previous episodes, a lot of people, when there's the open forum and there's time to think and chat and reflect, and there's no business, agenda so much, and there's no, and everyone's, older and wiser and comfortable in their own skin. Everyone has stories to tell. This guy is today a venture capitalist. Why is he so, working? Why is he chasing after deal, working 100 hours a week? Well, when you get to know him, he goes, well, really, when I grew up in Moscow and we didn't have and my mom was waiting in the bread line, and so behind I've seen this many times, behind the apparent success or a person's founded 20 companies. Like, oh wow, when will you retire? No, you don't know. When I was younger, my mom knit me that dress. I remember knitting my younger sister the dress because we didn't have what to eat or wear. And I'm like, oh my God. So a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of people, because of family issues or extreme poverty or extreme wealth, their lives today are painted over with this. Why is that person worth $50 million? Well, when they grew up in a rat infested, rundown government funded apartment after the war, and their parents were Holocaust survivors, that is what motivates them now at 58 years old to work, to still work, work themselves into chaos. And isn't it fascinating that behind every person is all these layers, like an onion? There's all these layers upon layers, and some of the best computer training and wisdom I ever got was from a handful of people. All were homeless or hadn't worked in a number of years, but man, did they know how to fix a laptop. Man, did they know everything about computer electronics and hardware. And it's sometimes you need that. I'm seeing this more now. Sometimes you need someone really neurodiverse, someone who is thinking differently, who doesn't fit so well into society, doesn't fit so well in, may not be the best communicator, but the knowledge and wisdom that they possess is vast. And you felt this. You felt this in different ways. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this? Now we have language for it. There wasn't even, you couldn't say neurotypical. That didn't exist in 1990.
Yeah, and what comes to mind, Mike, is the fact that, when I walked into Kelsey Sebo Clinic in Houston, Texas to get speech therapy a lot when I was a kid, there were a different level, if you will, kids in there.
Yes.
Some of them were at times, I noticed in there, who were wheelchair bound. And there were some kids who were, had able bodies to walk, but they're like mine. The view they had of the world probably was filled with doctors and fear and anxiety. And where's the money coming from? Will the insurance cover this? That's their parents, or stuff like that, but our guardians. But still, that emotional tension.
Yes.
I've come to believe that if that emotional unsteadiness happens in a guardian or parent, then that kind of clomps onto a child.
Yes. I always say this, that and there are many biblical phrases, the sins of the father pass unto the
Right,
child, or
exactly.
shameful. There's all sorts of Book of Proverbs quotes, or Jewish, Hebrew, or Yiddish quotes. But yeah, the mood, the situation, whatever the parents are going through, as a child, it's absorbed. I could tell you, I've never had it so bad on the financial front. I was always privileged. Things were always good. But when it comes to, but in my family, extended family, there are a lot of characters, a
Hmm.
lot of characters, and there's a great saying that a wise saying, unfortunately, so true, that like money brings out the worst in people, or whenever business brings out the worst in people, or mental health challenges. You can only hide them for so long, and I'm amazed. It's weird. Like today, I'm amazed by the like now everything's open. Now you have a person on TV with like OCD, and they just say, "Look, I'm good at acting. Yeah, I'm good at this, but of course." And then they show you a lot, 12 bars of soap, and the guy, Howie Mandel washing his hands 20 times, and the Jack Nicholson character, and as good as it gets. And then you have other mental health challenges. You have people who are like, I know so many people, they've come on the show, whatever, where they're just openly dyslexic, and they're like, yeah, I can't read for the life of me. And I'm like, you can't read. This is your fourth company you're starting. They're like, well, Michael, that's very different. To run a company doesn't mean that it's a successful company. It just means that, the investor's losing a lot of money. Or I'm like, really? And it's like, yeah, running a company doesn't mean you can read, and it means that you can convince people less tactical to get a salary. It doesn't mean that you're good at anything. And I'm like, really? Yeah. So it's so
Really?
fascinating.
Really?
So
Can I have
only
that person's phone number? May I call them right now, please? Exactly.
it's fascinating, the rawness of like, yeah, I guess it's like a game, like the game of business, of the game also of the we were saying like social media, where is are ladies posting pictures of themselves with no makeup on, unkempt, and talking about their failures. No, that is not that's not LinkedIn. You'll never see that. What you do see are like everything's cropped and edited a million times and layered over with like AI speech and visual graphics, and it's fascinating how everything is. I always tell people when they ask, I'm like, remember, what you see is not what you get. Smoke and mirrors. Dig a little deeper. I know that guy. No, he lost. No, he lost $500,000 last year. You've seen behind the curtain a bit. You've seen the difference between, in journalism, you must have seen writing for a newspaper. So interesting. There you have to, the editorial room. I've heard all the talks about the editorial meetings where people sit down. They're like, okay, what news should we manufacture today?
And that used to happen in every major metro newspaper in
Yeah.
the country. I mean, I remember working. Well, no, I'm not going to use that example. That's too be kind of mean. I don't want to do that. But
No names.
I remember. But if you have seen All the President's Men, the movie, if you've seen that movie,
I've seen it. Yeah, sure.
then there's a scene where Jason Robards plays Ben Bradley in with Jack Ward, another great actor, and others around the table, and they're talking about, you get 3 columns for Nation, 2 columns for World. So that's the way that you went in the 70s in newspapers. That's how they divided up space like that. Now, as the editorial landscape expanded
Yes.
because of advertising sales in newspapers, then they could change to actually give separate sections for different things. And now, as the newspaper world has gone backwards
Yes.
due to ad sales declining so much, they've had to go back to putting sections together. And so instead of like having a daily 3-page section on lifestyle,
Yeah.
it's now 1 page.
So true. It's so true.
And
That's so true.
and so these editorial decisions, they've changed over the years depending on how the business has gone. I also think too something very important to bring up in editorial standards and talking about this
Yes. Yeah.
is the fact that every decision made on at a newspaper about where a story is played, about what goes on top of the front page, what goes to the centerpiece, goes to the lower part of the front page, the side rail stories. Same thing in sports.
Yeah.
Those are all hashed out. The big newspapers, they usually have daily editorial meetings at the newspapers in like a meeting room, daily meeting room. Now, when they get in there, you'll go through what do you got, how many sections, blah blah blah. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Okay. Then there's a decision on maybe what to put on the front page or leave where it is in your section. There's a decision made on what to tease on the front page. Yeah. What for sports, those bottom hot boxes, I mean. What's in sports, what's in Metro. Okay, we'll take those main stories and give it like 2 lines of context and page number to the page front and a picture at the top of the front page above the mast.
Yeah.
If you will. The mast, for those who don't know, is what says the newspaper name across the top, like New York Times or Philadelphia Inquirer or Toronto Globe and Mail. I mean,
exactly.
That's or the Globe and Mail, I guess it would be. So, I mean,
very good.
but every I know, hey, I know Canadians, hey. So, the Italian Canadians even too, but anyway.
Yes.
My point being that there are decisions being made. And people I know love to paint newspapers in one particular way. I know it. I've heard it enough. And I want to tell you people out there, whether you like it or not, I've worked with enough newsrooms with enough different people that go this way or that way politically.
Yes.
But when it comes to getting the job done, though, when it comes to getting the job done and editing a story, writing a headline, everything focuses on what the newspaper's standards itself are. And those are set by the editor of the newspaper. So
yes, the editor.
The editor of the newspaper, one of his goals or her goals, whatever time frame it might be, is to present his or her view of an editorial standard within the context of using the Associated Press style book or the Chicago Manual style or the thesaurus or the Merriam-Webster dictionary, whatever the case may be. All those things come into play and focus. So, and this may just rankle people a little bit because they want to hold on to their beliefs to it. So, okay, believe what you want to believe.
You can believe what you want to believe, everybody.
But and now, are there news networks out there who do slant, like TV networks? Do they slant in one direction or the other? Yes, they do, because they're trying to get their viewer from their main market to watch them.
It's so fascinating. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on that.
So let me just be blunt about this, Mike. MSNBC wants a liberal, left-leaning crowd watching their stuff. Fox News wants a conservative, right-leaning, MAGA content intake group watching them.
Yes.
And they have their audiences watching them. But then when one of them gets out of that box a little bit, their fans are there to slap them on the wrist, say, "Get back in your box." Get back in your box.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to when I've just from what I'm learning. I guess I was thinking about the other day where someone's like, I've done 600 episodes of my show, and I'm like, my congratulations. And they're like, yeah, I've been working on it for like 7 years, and it's this huge production. And I'm like, and they're like, how many people on your team, Mike? And I'm like, no, there is no, no, I don't edit anything. They're like, you don't edit? And I'm like, well, I'm not Bloomberg News over here. I'm just collecting wisdom from other people. And they're like, but you have to be, it has to be, well, what's the point? And I'm like, the point is it is what it is. What do you mean, what's the point? They're like, well, you have to be doing, if you're going to put in all this time, like, okay, you have to understand, I'm not spending, I mean, okay, yes, I have to push record and I have to talk with the person, but I'm not like manufacturing what they're saying into a cherry picking certain things in a certain way with the goal of presenting it to a certain audience with a certain way. And and people have looked at me like I'm completely insane. And I'm like, I mean, like I may be completely insane, but but editing, the whole world of editing and putting spin, and even the editorial meeting, if we will, which is another way to say what makes the cut and what is news and what is more important, what is more newsily news than something less. It's fascinating because, I mean, now I'm not much of a news guy or connoisseur, but I've always loved the, yes, there's always like, I mean, in today's day and age, there's like sort of the raw video footage. And then you have people talk, Fox News, CNN, whatever, and then they're like, this, the footage. And then they talk about it for like, talk, all these talking heads. And I'm like, I've learned it's much better to talk to people who are in a certain field or genre or place in the world, and you hear their perspective. If you talk to someone, I was thinking last week, it was okay, I talked to that woman in India, and she's an artist, and she's talking about all the righteous work she's doing related to like the jail, the juvenile detention center. And I'm like, whoa, how come that doesn't make the news? Well, it's not a world war. It's righteous deeds of art and therapy. And I'm like, well, that makes the Mike Merker news. You feel there is a Joe Rutland news that you want to, I guess the term is, what's the right term? You want to convey certain information in a sort of light. It doesn't have to be negative. It's not to feed.
No, the focus of any GSR network platform is journalistic integrity first and foremost.
Journalistic integrity. Can you unpack that? How would you define that in the ABCs?
The way I view it, Mike, is this way. To me, journalistic integrity means if I wanted to have a location on the internet where stories just were curated thanks to the Python coding that did it, but with a weighted scale, and had an editorial brain built with standards and practices and levels and all these types of things, where there is a standard to meet on whether a story is worthy of being on a GSR network platform or whether it's utter garbage. Like, for me, I want to make sure that every platform I have and develop in the future has grade A quality news sourced material. I want the stories that come onto my platforms to be from reputable news sources. Like for politics, The Hill in DC, or looking at Reuters, or looking at Politico, or looking at other outlets as well in the political spectrum.
You want to make sure that it's major stuff and it's filtered. It's not filtered, it's just conveyed with that integrity, with meaning that it's authentic stories told without spin, told in a democratic way, told in a fair and honest way. And do you feel an urge or a deep need to spread the right messages in the right way? Are you feeling that way?
The right messages is kind of a heady connotation because what is right, the right connotation, is based on a person's viewpoint, a world viewpoint, a political viewpoint, a sports viewpoint, a business viewpoint, an AI viewpoint, entertainment, betting viewpoints. What I want to convey is this: when you come to global politics report, or global sports report, or global entertainment report, or global AI report, or a global betting report, and when you look on those sites, what you see is not only stories you can click on and trust, but also the data cards below those story hyperlinks that take you to the story at the original site. The data cards underneath can give you a perspective of what the story is about the important elements of a story. And remember, every platform that I do has a line built for journalists by a journalist on all of them.
Built for journalists by journalists.
By a journalist.
By a journalist. You are interesting. Do you feel, here's a tough question, talking about journalism here. What do you feel is the role of a journalist in this day and age?
Oh boy. Okay, let me try and give you an answer here. Because it's easy for me. The easy one for me to say is, oh, look at what CBS News, ABC News, NBC News do every night. Oh, they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on the TV screen and talk. Okay, well, okay, that's okay, and they've earned their spot. Whether you believe it or not, they've earned their spot in some way, shape, or form. Now, what I want to see as a journalist, I want to go to some place and look on there every couple of hours or 3 hours and be able to trust what I see is going to be really, really close to the truth. It's never, remember, there always are facts that are not fully given from sources.
Yes.
There's always, I think I'm getting the most accurate information, data analytics about a story from a story I click on. And that's true. But there's always more in the back. It hasn't made its way to the front yet and has not been fully fleshed out and sourced yet.
Fascinating. It's so true. It's so
true. Right. So now the point is, I want to make sure that when people come to those platforms, the GSM network, they can trust that there's an editorial standard behind everything they see, they read, they touch. I want people to know that GSM network is not just another sports blog or politics blog site. We're not doing that stuff. I'm not doing that stuff at all. It's simply, it's curated news from other sources, yes, but there's a high standard a story has to meet before it goes on any platform that I run. Is that
very interesting?
Answer your question, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting, and I guess the follow-up there is: do you think a podcast or a YouTube interview, would you call that media or news or journalism? How do you group that?
It is media.
It is media.
I would call that media. I would not call it journalism because, like, this conversation you and I are having, like two guys sitting on the bar stool talking about life.
Bahia. It's just Bahia, everyone. Beautiful.
Here you go. Whatever.
It's just a chat. A chat is media. A calm chat is media. That's
correct.
Not news.
And this conversation between us, which is, there was no setup, folks. It was like 30 seconds, click, we're on the air.
Joe paid me $100 to do the interview, and he has a gun to my head, and he sent me nasty threats if I didn't do it, and he kidnapped 5 of my children. No, I'm kidding. Oh God, edit that out.
There were no threats made here. No promises either. But so the point is I want to make about your question is that this to me is media. Now, if this was a journalistic conversation, you would have a series of facts and data and information about me personally.
Yes.
About the things that are positive, and boy, there are things negative about me too, because I failed in nearly every aspect of my life.
Join the club of admitting your
failed.
failures,
I
everyone.
failed a lot of times in a lot of different ways, Mike. But that so we were doing a journalistic conversation. It was at GSO Network. You would have a list of questions prepared that are more generically focused on what GSO Network is, what it's about, and whether. And you can question me on whether look, Joe. I saw this on your corporate site. Is this true? Blah blah blah. And I'd say, yes, it's partly true, or yes, it's fully true, and I'll tell you why. See, that's the type of journalistic type of interview.
Yes.
That falls into that category. Now, some people might say this is just entertainment or infotainment, if you will.
Okay.
And,
that's right. That's right. That's the one of the classifications is entertainment or infotainment is just general maybe time specific, but general information, and it's being, I guess it's not breaking news. It's not investigative journalism. It's just chat media or something interesting. And do you feel that this is benefit? Do you feel that now there's quite a lot today of different types, YouTube interviews, shows, chit chats? Do you feel this is a benefit to the field of journalism?
My hope is that our conversation here has given some levity and some light to those who listen about journalism. But I also want people to understand, too, journalists are human beings. Journalists are the same types of people you run into at your bars, at your shopping malls, at your grocery stores, in the streets, when you see them out at a city council meeting for your city news hamlet newspaper in a city of 30,000 people, that's still a journalist. Okay?
Fascinating.
And so I think that, journalism needs as many heroes as it can have. I'm not a hero of journalism. I'm just one. No, I don't think I am, Mike. I think I'm someone who's just. There's a mentor of mine that died a few months ago suddenly, named Deanna Fuentes. And she was a journalist that worked at the San Antonio Express News, worked at the Laredo Morning Times as editor. I learned a ton from her. And when I learned that she had passed away, suddenly, it was a gut punch to me, but also to many, many others beyond me that have learned from her. And there's a few other people in my life too I've learned from that I'm not going to share their names publicly because
no need.
They don't want me to do so. But what I'm trying to do in my own small way is pass along what I've learned from them to others.
Fascinating.
And so this may look like an ego thing to some people, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm the founder of GSO Network. I'm proud of that. I'm founder of Global's Policy Support. I'm proud of that.
There always is ego in the saying one is the host of a show, or this is a business they started, or an entrepreneurial venture. Of course, but that's a natural thing to say that you're the founder, or anyone says when they say what they do or what they've invented, or there is it's also a representation of oneself. That isn't necessarily I guess it naturally includes honor, but it's not always a false honor. It's legitimate honor.
And so as we get near the close of this podcast, Mike, what I hope our conversation today has let people know is that I'm very human with faults and frailties like a human being. I live in a rented room in a house in the Salt Lake City area, not in my own place. I've just recently experienced homelessness. I'm aware of the frailties of life, how things can be given very quickly and then very quickly taken away. whether it's by my own faults and frailties, whether it's by a company saying, we can't have you around anymore, we're cutting back, or
Happens all
things
the
like
time.
that.
Fascinating.
I'm very proud, though, to be a founder of GSN Network. I'm proud to be a publisher for Rockies Roundtable, covering the Colorado Rockies Major League Baseball team for Roundtable Sports. I'm proud to be a part of another group in the Roundtable Sports world. I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've been given. I'm grateful for the opportunities I'll be having come open in the future. And maybe when someone sees this conversation between you and I, they'll see just a natural conversation between two men. You're incredibly more personally successful than me. You're married with children.
Well,
Not like Al Bundy and Peg Bundy, but you are married with children.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess, does that count as a sign of I get. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna be like, if anyone criticizes me, I'll be like, well, I have facial hair. It's certain biological.
Nothing wrong with that.
Fascinating. This was, yeah. Thank you, Joe. This was fascinating, and pleasure to learn about so many perspectives on media and journalism. And we will pause here.